Let's open up the OG mailbag. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovias. We are inside Eford Studios, and you, well, some of you, are part of OGTriangleMedia.com. If you're not an OG fan, you're not going to get the full episode. If you want the full episode, go to OGTriangleMedia.com and be part of OG fans. And here's a little something for you. Sign up at OGTriangleMedia.com, and you'll get a discount to the Basketball Jones next Friday at the Rialto. You can go to therialto.com and get your tickets today. And that discount comes with an OGTriangleMedia.com subscription for as little as $13 a month, Joe.
I feel like you even get one free month in there.
You can if you buy for the year. Of course, the OG mailbag, the free portion of it, is brought to you by our friends at the Butcher's Market. Check them out, thebutchersmarkets.com. You know what? Just keep things super easy. Go to the store, buy some pre-made meals, stick it in the oven, and not sweat it. Hey, real quick before we start, I want to apologize to you.
To me?
Yeah, I want to apologize to you. I am sorry.
For?
I did not respect your dry January yesterday. I did not respect it. I didn't respect it.
You were pushing?
I was pushing on you. I put the clip out this morning because I thought it was kind of funny. And I was going a little too hard in the paint on you about like, no, man, try the beer, dude. Come on, man. It's just one beer. I felt bad.
Okay.
Because you're close, dude.
I know, we're almost there.
You're almost there. It's January 24th.
And I literally had a dream, was it last week, about drinking a beer. And it was not even a good beer, but it was cold. And I was like,
Can I just, I respect that you're doing dry January, but I also think dry January is silly.
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, I get what you're pointing about, like, because it rhymes or whatever. There's alliteration there that you're all excited about not drinking. But no, it's about making better choices. Like,
so you do that in the course of moderation.
Correct. I'm telling you, what was the football game on NBC this week? Was it the Eagles game?
Yeah, I think it was the Eagles game.
Was it? Because I'm watching it and I'm going, anytime now there's a promo for the 50th birthday of Saturday Night Live.
You feel it.
There's like a hammer that I get hit in the back of the head with that says, oh shit. Oh shit.
Hey, look,
if SNL was born in 75 and is turning 50, then you are turning 50.
Dude, let me explain something. I just ordered Birkenstocks. Okay. The slippers.
Okay.
Because my left knee is becoming such a pain that I'm going to walk around the house in the form-fitting, help you with your...
You're 46 this year?
I'll be 46.
No surgeries, though?
No surgeries.
Okay.
I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, hit me up with the CBD. And now I've purchased a Birkenstock so I can be an old man walking around in the house in my home field sweats, by the way.
And sweatshirts. Yes. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, it catches up to you. And that's why I would say to you, I get it. It's like hip or cool, whatever, the dry part. But no, it's just more about, like, how do we make better choices? And, my wife gets mad at me because, like, I can not drink for like a month and not eat like sweet things for a month and lose like 10 pounds.
Let's answer some questions, shall we?
Here's a mail that never fails. Makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, what a whale.
All right, this comes to us from a 919. They texted the OG Sports phone, and they start with this. I'm going to text my shit while I shit. Appreciate the transparency on that one. Thank you. I was surprised by Giglio dropping that Dean Smith knowledge. Sounds like he's becoming a fan. What is that supposed to mean?
Doing my homework. Come on, man.
Well, did they think... I mean, I get it. You and I did not grow up here, but we've lived here long enough and we've covered it enough that you have some level of curiosity to understand the way things are the way they are. Plus, we've hung out with enough of our previous generation of sports media people who told you all those stories.
Oh, yeah.
Which means that we are now those people who are telling the youngins all those stories. Like when you tell young Brendan, tell me you're a guy who's never had to write the same crap story for an entire season.
Hey, man, that's a luxury that he got to 30 without having to cover a terrible team.
All right, so we got two questions. Does Giglio need a Alexander Julian blazer from the Belichick collection? All right, now I got to look this up. Let's go to the Belichick collection. on the Julian's website. And that is a slick blue blazer. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. The problem is that it's $1,200.
Well, you got to spend those expenses somehow. You got to get there. Well, he probably doesn't spend any money. That's a deal that he has with them. So
I didn't see it in the contract.
yeah. Well, no, he has his own separate endorsement deal with Julian.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah.
The necktie starts at $140.
I don't need the jacket. I don't need the necktie, but I do need the well because I keep saying it so much now.
Well, you need
I feel like I need a bell and the well in the office here somewhere. That is cool though. Now you can get me like a knockoff one, though, right?
No, absolutely not, Joe. I'm going to get you a real. Your birthday's coming up. You're turning 50.
I don't think 50 is the silver.
It's not, but I'm going to make it the silver.
Is it gold?
Anniversary.
Diamond? Golden?
I think it's diamond.
Diamond 75. I feel.
Is it 75? Okay, yeah. I can never remember. No, I'm going to get you the sterling silver one. Make it real. That way they'll accept you in Chapel Hill circles. Yeah. You also need the bell tower necktie as well to go with it.
The bell and the well.
That would make a lot of sense. $85 for a pocket square. Look, now my attitude towards these types of things has completely changed because A, the business we've chosen, B, I think societal changes and what is appropriate dress. I couldn't tell you the last time I had to wear a suit for something that wasn't a funeral or a wedding.
And it's so weird that
even at weddings now.
It's so weird that Bill Belichick, the man who made his, aesthetic as a guy who was so knee deep in, goal line situations and studying, the walkthroughs that he's filmed. He's so knee deep in football stuff that he didn't have time to wear a proper sweatshirt, and he rebelled against the man and the machine by not even wearing, the league issued quarter zip, or polo when it was warm out. Like, he was such a rebel, now has an endorsement deal with the fanciest of fancy clothiers in Chapel Hill.
Like I just said, the new rebellious thing to do in 2025 is to dress nicely because everybody else is dressing like a slob now.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
That's why.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
Should I text her their second point, though?
Oh, you're right. He did have two questions. I'm sorry here. So we'll continue. Will college athletes begin asking for NIL deals with similar features to coaches? If I was going to UNC, I might ask for money plus expense account and car allowance.
We're already there. We are already there. Those are the asks right now.
So if I take the news from the recruiting circles last night, the big announcement that Caleb Wilson is going to go to North Carolina, I would have to imagine that NIL is okay now.
It's not just the money.
They did everything that this guy asked, unlike the BYU guy.
The BYU asks were a lot. I'll say that.
So I guess Caleb's asks were not as much.
I would imagine not as outlandish. Yes.
Okay. Read between the lines, folks, what Gilio is telling you, what happened with the guy from BYU and why North Carolina might not have been in the mix at the end. It's not like they didn't try.
No, and they had the money.
Right.
It wasn't the money. It was all these other ancillary asks. And I don't mind Carolina putting their foot down on that front.
Sure.
$5 million was the ask. And $5 million is what they came up with. Like, what else do you need for 9 months of basketball?
I understand that you are what the market says you're worth.
Yeah.
We see this with player contracts across professional sports. But after a while, they started to put caps on that stuff. We saw how crazy it got in the NFL draft, for instance, where they had to do the rookie deals, which helped benefit the teams in the long run because you're not tied to Sam Bradford was the one who broke everybody's brains. This huge guaranteed deal. He never pans out. And of course, it said no more. The NBA had to go through this with the rookie wage scale and everything else. I got to imagine that we're not that far removed from how this is all playing out, that we're going to have like legitimate slotting when it comes to...
requires schools to make the players employees.
Yes, but
I don't know what they're waiting for at this point.
Because I get like the initial player, right? But then you get like we dealt with this when we got the freak out from NC State football fans about the defensive guys going elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just a contract. You basically go back to the well every year. Sometimes you've heard some stories. I'm sure you've seen those stories too, where they're going back to the well in the middle of the season to try to rework the deal.
Well, even after agreeing to a deal, you're seeing players come out of the portal and say, all right, we agree. Let's just say 200,000.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they go, oh, no, let's add $200,000 more. Well, wait a second. We agreed to a deal last week.
Right.
I don't understand.
This is not sustainable. So at some point,
It's not.
they're just going to have to get over
So,
themselves with the whole employee thing.
As I understand it, the earliest the House settlement, the lawsuit, House, not the House of Representatives,
Mhm.
Congress, the earliest the House settlement could come in is July 1st. So we could see by this academic year, 25-26,
Mhm.
we could see that $20 million in revenue sharing, which would change, as they're calling it, it would end the NIL era and begin the revenue sharing era. Now that becomes how much of that 20 million at a football school, how much of it goes to football?
Yeah.
How much of it goes to basketball? How much of it goes to these other sports? And also, will you use all 20 million? That's in play too. A lot of these schools will say, I can't fund all of these other sports and distribute $20 million. So there's going to be that as well. So this whole thing is super complicated, but I think we have an answer to how it actually works now, as opposed to the way it used to work.
Yeah, that's true. But I also think it's leading to some existential crisis modes at various schools. Yesterday you're going through it, contemplating fans and why the OG sports phone seems to have broken you. You're not alone, by the way.
It hasn't broken me. I'm trying to understand why people are processing this season the way that they are.
Well, I think the next call might lead into that conversation. This is from 840. My guess is this is Sean.
Hey guys. First of all, Ovius, you should stop saying Bill Belichick thing isn't going to go the way people thought it would. Because who exactly is people? What people? Because if it's me and every Tar Heel fan that I know, it is going to go exactly the way we thought it is. So you're saying Belichick keeps getting floated for NFL jobs? Huh. Belichick is on TV and isn't showing interest in recruiting? Weird. Belichick has the mouthpiece doing all the talking for him? You don't say. Fortunately, we all saw this coming, and it's going to be a lot of more attention on another 8-4 team. And secondly, referencing Hubert and Shire, replacing the legends like you did on the mailbag, I have definitely thought about making sure Carolina gets it right. But I guess until you said it, I hadn't really thought about being worried, I guess, that Shire and Duke have gotten it so right yet. I mean, what has Shire done yet? Again, I say yet, up to this point, that would point to them getting it so right. An ACC tournament championship and some bracket luck as a 4 seed last year and then losing to State again. I mean, they are very good this year, and we will see where that goes. But I hadn't thought of we won the battle, but I'm worried Duke won the war the way you had phrased it. It still could happen, don't get me wrong, but I guess it hasn't yet. Some more heel splaining, I guess. Y'all have a good night.
Oh, I love heel splaining to no end. Real quick on the Belichick stuff. Look, when I get hit with I'm not hearing that, or my guys thought of it this way. That's your circle. That's how you roll. I'm not in your private group chats. It's great that your circle feels that particular way. But part of what we do is to get a wide sample of opinions, wide sample of how people are thinking, and kind of present it that way. To even drill it down a little bit more as it relates to that, it's not going to go the way that you thought it was going to go. I think what's going to happen is that Bill Belichick gets there. To Sean's point, they're 8-4 with a bunch of attention, which is really not all that different than what you got with Mac Brown. And people are going to go, man, not even the greatest coach of all time could get Carolina football to be better than 8-4. Why would I even try that, right? And it might set back, behind the scenes. Well, why are we keep trying with football? We've seen these iterations before. I mean, we saw this after Butch Davis. Like, why are we even still doing this, right? So this is just the next iteration of that, which actually gets to the second point about basketball, that I think there's still a subset of Carolina people that would just rather all this attention and focus and money be on basketball, because that's the identity, as you'd like to joke about, the well, the bell, and this thing that they have that also relates to Duke, which gets us to the war and the battle. for context purposes, ever since the Mike Krzyzewski retirement tour, since he announced he was done and that John Shire was the coach in waiting, and we're moving on from that, you and I have had extensive conversations about what this is really about. Mike Krzyzewski is the greatest of all time in terms of adapting to the changing nature of college basketball over the course of 50 years to go along with 5 different titles that have been won different ways in different eras, okay? But what's the one thing that coaches of his ilk have not been able to crack at various programs that have had to deal with situations where there's a guy replacing the guy? What's been the issue?
There's never been a succession plan that's worked. There's
Right.
never been a legend whose legacy has been carried on by the very next coach. It's never been done before.
So Carolina's gone through this, by the way. You know, they tried to replace the legend that was Dean Smith, and bless Bill Guthridge. People, 2 Final Fours in 3 years, but people understood the greater question of where's recruiting going? Is this sustainable? What's next? Roy freaking Williams is right there, and it was a bumpy road to get to Roy Williams, but they finally got him.
Wasn't A to B to C.
No, it was a bumpy road to get to get to Roy, right?
It wasn't even A to B.
So now Roy in Carolina to Hubert, people are kind of seeing this almost a very similar pattern to what happened after Dean Smith. And I think that's in the back of their mind. Like, well, wait a minute. We already did this gut thing once. Is Hubert just this version of gut? There's that existential crisis that exists over there. So Kay was trying to solve that problem with the way that he handled it. Military successions, making it abundantly clear, these are my guys, and the group that is coming up next are his guys. 0 questions asked, no bleed over. This is what it is. It is John's program now. Okay.
And it wasn't just Carolina, by the way. It's John Wooden. It's Bob Knight. It's
Kentucky.
You're talking about a guy who's the ultimate competitor.
Yeah.
For real.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And I think people lose sight of that, and people laugh, openly at him for the this is not acceptable after losing his last game at Cameron, and then the golf cart, down in the Superdome down in New Orleans, him and Mickey riding off on the golf cart. But the truth of the matter is, I said it that day. He has set up now John Shire to be successful in a way that no one else has. And it's important that you realize Cooper Flagg wasn't recruited by Mike Krzyzewski. Okay. So what, to Sean's question, what has Duke done? Duke has established the way that NIL works. They have mastered the NIL game. You can tell me, awesome, Giglio, they have $10 million and no one else is even near their budget. You can tell me that. But I want you to show me all those titles. The Dodgers have won the title every single year in Major League Baseball over the last 10 years. The Yankees have won the World Series the last 10 years because they all have more money. Just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to win.
No.
Now, you mostly need money to win, okay? But you still have to give the teams credit who win and how they spend their money and how they do it wisely. So they established and understand the rules of NIL from the jump, and they've been consistent. You're telling me I don't understand Carolina's standard. Well, I'm trying to tell you, here's what Duke has done. 27-9. Yes, they won the ACC that year. You should not diminish the ACC title.
No.
I don't care if you're Carolina or Duke. When you win the ACC title, that's something to be proud of. The next year, they go 27-9. They were not a good team last year. Straight up.
They still got to the Elite
and they
Eight.
somehow made it to the Elite Eight. Can you think, I just want you to think about that for a second. Their basement is the Elite Eight.
Right. Right.
You're telling me in their 2 worst years, they have an ACC title in one and a trip to the Elite Eight in the other.
Right.
Okay. That's the consistency. There's your NIL. That's your succession. That's what they've done. And they've done it better than anyone else.
The down year, so to speak, that gets them to the Elite Eight, everybody understood what the next year was coming about.
Yeah.
They knew what was coming. So you could be dismissive of, well, what exactly has Shire done? That's not the point, because you and I both agree that the zero-sum game is ridiculous.
I agree.
Where is the program? Is it consistent? Does it look like it is in a position to manage where all of this is going? If you look at Duke and you tell me, no, they are not the ones that are in position to navigate what's going on here, well, then I think you're completely not attached to reality. And that's what gets us back to Carolina. That's what gets back to the phrase that I've been using the last 3 years or so of, you might have won the battle in that you ruined Coach K's farewell tour.
Which was awesome, by the way.
Which was great.
Like,
nobody's dismissing that.
To be clear.
And there's a larger point to be made.
To be clear, that was awesome.
There is a larger point to be made here that I'll get to in a second. But focusing on this part right now, you won that battle. You ruined Coach K. That is a chapter in the rivalry that you got. All right. but the war is about the programs and where they are headed. Now, to be clear, this gets to the larger point. I am not an idiot. This gets back to the history of the game. We've done this a few times. We've not our first rodeo. And there have been instances between Duke and Carolina where one program thinks, we have lapped you. You're done.
And Duke went back-to-back, 91, 92.
Carolina's freaking done.
Dean's done because he only has one.
That's right.
Mike's got two now.
What happened in 93?
North Carolina won the national championship.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Then we get to the Roy Williams era, right? Duke is down, man. They're down bad for 06, right.
Well, no, you had Duke's title, 01.
You got 01.
They should have won. They should have won in 99. They won it in 01. They should have won it in 02.
Yes.
And so they're running hot. They had won 6 ACCs in a row. It was a stretch that had never been done before.
So Roy comes back, fixes everything. Duke's going through some, again, navigating the changes of college athletics, the one and done. Calipari's recruiting. Calipari's running the show.
Mike's more interested in USA basketball than he is Duke basketball.
Never forget
that was a real thing.
That was a real thing. So 09, UNC wins the championship.
Well, 05 and 09.
This is the thing about 09. They win in 09.
A war machine, by the way.
A war machine.
Not even a
09,
monster, a war machine.
And then they go take Harrison Barnes.
Yeah.
Duke was done. Coach K's might be interested more in the NBA. You mentioned USA basketball. What'd they do in 2010?
They won the national championship.
After Carolina goes to the NIT. And then from that point on, Duke completely modernizes itself.
They go one and done the next year.
And then they win in 2015.
Yeah.
Okay. So I say all this to illustrate the point.
But then Carolina wins. They go in 16, win in 17.
But they also win in a different way, too.
Oh, completely. And enforced almost, not playing at Duke's game.
Right. And in a way,
and
people
watching
said,
a kid from Kinston, of all places, go play for Duke.
And of course, the self-medication at that point was, this is better. We got guys who really want to be here. Okay. But 2017 was a long time ago, and college athletics has completely changed. But we bring all
hard to believe. That is a true statement, but
the 2015 was 10 years ago.
I understand what you're saying.
So I bring all this up. We give you a brief history, if you will, of Carolina and Duke over the last 30 to 40 years to illustrate the point that just because I think Duke's got it right now doesn't mean that Carolina can't adapt like they have in the past or change what they're doing, which gets to my favorite thing. Yesterday, you got fired up at that call from James, right? The Duke guy.
Sure.
This is when I get fired up, and I have to remind myself sometimes that even though you and I are right about certain stuff, and this is specific to Carolina, Carolina's big problem right now with Hubert Davis is more existential than it is X's and O's.
Okay.
This is about worrying, oh shit, did Duke get it right? Are we wrong? We have been saying for how long now, hey man, it ain't the shorts anymore. It ain't the Jays anymore, man. The family's great, don't get us wrong, but that's not the reason why kids are going to schools anymore. Why are kids going to the schools that they're going to, Joe?
Dollar bills.
Now, I understand that the message and the messenger are tied together. And there is a good chunk of you out there that don't like it when you and I are the messenger when it comes to certain things related to North Carolina.
Yeah, that doesn't mean we can't do a better job of explaining, which I do think Theo Pinson does here.
Which gets us to Theo. Yeah. I have had multiple people send me this clip. You sent this morning. I got like 5 different text messages. Hell, Felder's in my DMs sending me this too, right? This is Theo Pinson on his podcast, essentially saying what we've been saying for the better part of 3 years, but because it's Carolina guys, it's national champion different. Carolina guys, you're more receptive to the message.
Carolina name is not going to mean much anymore because these kids just want bread. We need more money. Kids nowadays don't go to schools for the fit anymore. They go to schools where the money is. We just simply missed. We got out NIL'd. We have no presence inside. We missed. So we didn't get any. And we will not let that shit happen again. I don't give a damn if me and Ray got to call somebody. It ain't happening. All that to be said, I understand. We are not in the business to make excuses. At Carolina, we're expected to win. We're expected to win championships. I understand that. But there is a certain level of accountability inside the locker room that our team had, Justin, and that Ray team had, and all the other successful teams had, that is not there in that locker room right now.
You can say all you want to say about Coach Hubert this, Hubert that. Can he be better in certain places? We all can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. As a coach, I can be better. Can he be better? Yes. But to say his fault, he needs to get fired over something that they can change as players, no, I can't agree with you.
So that was Theo Pinson and Ray Felton on Theo's podcast. And I agree wholeheartedly with what Theo's saying, because we've been saying this for the better part of 3 years. And I've always been curious. I don't have the answer to it. I'm simply curious as to whether or not in Chapel Hill, when the light bulb was going to go on, that the game is different. And what has worked for Carolina still can work to a certain extent. It gets your foot in the door. You have your history. You've got all these connections. You've got the family. That gets you there to the table. But are you now, when you get to the table, playing the game that you actually have to play? I don't question that with Duke and John Shire, but I have wondered that out loud when it comes to Carolina.
Here's a great example, and I'm glad Theo made the point in the way that he did. I've been trying to tell people college basketball has changed, okay? And Carolina fans push back like, here's our standard, and I'm not telling you to accept up and downs.
Sure.
I'm saying to accept the new reality of what college basketball is, okay? Pre-NIL, pre-transfer portal, Jonas Adu is a 6'11" big who played for Tennessee's top 10 team last year, Joe. Under normal circumstances, where does Jonas Adu, who grew up in Durham, North Carolina, like if we went back and transformed back to his bedroom 10 years ago, is there almost a guarantee that there's a poster, there's a pennant, there's something Carolina in that room?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's almost a guarantee, right?
Easily.
So if you're sitting here and you're Carolina and you're going, why don't we have a big? This is the guy that you have to look at and go, under any other circumstance, you get this guy. And where did he end up? Arkansas.
Right.
Who's got the only people who have a close to a budget near Duke's are Arkansas.
Got that chicken money.
Okay.
Got that chicken money. Tyson coming through.
I'm glad he said it the way that he said it.
Yeah.
I'm not denigrating Carolina when I tell you to accept what the new reality of college basketball is. I'm trying to say to you, even a Jonas Adu is a guy that you're going to lose, because if the money's not right and your NIL's not right, then the players don't want to go there, because that's not the new reality of the way that college basketball works. The old reality, Joe, it did help that you had Dean Smith.
Yes.
It did help that you had Roy Williams. That's when Theo says the name, and that did resonate with players. To your point, we don't know what the name means without one of those Hall of Fame coaches. Our friend Ross Martin has made some waves on the social medias because he passed along a text from a friend that says, after they had lost again, it was, oh man, we're like another step closer to being Indiana. And someone had pointed out to me, hey, maybe you could have so-and-so who covers Indiana on your podcast to talk about what happened to Indiana basketball. And in the least smart-ass way I could ever possibly say, hey man, Indiana had one Hall of Fame coach, Bob Knight.
Yeah.
They never had another.
Right.
And one of my other great talking about points about Carolina, that I'm not being an asshole when I say it. Do you know how lucky you were to have Dean Smith for 36 years and Roy Williams for 18? There, you can't even count. Kentucky has one with different coaches. Kansas has one with different coaches. No one else has those two caliber of coaches. No one.
Right. And nobody's saying that John Shire is the next Hall of Fame coach.
No.
But
what they've done is they've adjusted to what the new reality is. That's what they've done.
That's the key. That's the key. And that's what this is all about.
And by the way, they lost the big last year to Kansas State.
They did.
I mean, very similar situation.
But even before NIL, it wasn't like you're getting them all.
No.
Okay. Even before NIL. And also before NIL, let's also not act that there weren't ways to make sure that families were incentivized.
Chris Duhan's mom, Tyler Hansborough's mom.
Let's discuss it in the way that the terms make it easier to digest.
Why did all of these number one recruits who wore Nike at Oak Hill and their high schools were paid by Nike and their AA teams are paid by Nike, why did they all go to Kentucky, Carolina, and Duke? It was the laundry, right?
The Louisville FBI investigation was the most hilarious thing to me, because people had to mentally disassociate themselves from the fact that you're telling me that Adidas was negotiating against itself? Is that what you're telling me?
Right. Yes.
Well,
Just as Auburn never offered Cam Newton anything.
no.
That evil Mississippi State
That's right.
offered $350.
So Adidas was just throwing out this money because they felt like they had to. Like, I don't really understand that, right? So my point, but the
out
reason
of
why
the kindness of their heart.
the reason why I bring it up is that there's always been a game, but the game has changed. The game has been, now it's the NIL. And the question gets back to, is Carolina doing it the way they should be doing it? Are they modernized? And that's where the Theo Pinson thing, and I love that from Theo, by the way, and I love that from Ray, when he said, Theo specifically, when he says, we are not going to let that shit happen again, because that's where we get to the standard. That's why I get why you're burnt out by a lot of the Fire Hubert stuff. The Fire Hubert stuff really, to me,
it's the twin fronts. That's burning me out.
It is a twin front, but specifically to Carolina and Hubert, I think it does come down to, it's a catch-all for what the fuck is going on. It's a catch-all for Carolina.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I'll say this about Carolina too. When I say Jonas Adu, you're going after the biggest of the big fish in the portal.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's a way to make moves and get guys under the radar, and they tried that with the Tyson kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I get it. There's no one way to do it. I keep saying that in football. The same is true in basketball. But if you're Carolina and you're Duke and you're going after these top transfers, then you have to be willing to pay the highest of the highest level.
All right, we got another one. I think this is back to UNC before we get to the paid side of things. From a 919, I've been listening to Giglio say that he's predicting Bubba is going to bounce from Carolina or not be the AD in the near future. I'm curious as to the thought process behind this and the ripple effect, if so. I do know there's a small tie to the basketball hire of Hubert Davis and the mixed success of that. But during my time at Carolina, I was a student from 2017 to 2021. The only new hires I really saw for major sports were Carolina family hires. I was present for Fedora to Brown, Mike Fox to Scott Forbes, Roy to Hubert. The only non-Carolina family hire was Hatchell to Banger. Does donor money really drive as much movement only for football and men's basketball, or does the news of the BOT trying to jump Bubba back in May of 24 give him the thought of getting the hell out and not dealing with a board and donors that don't seem to trust him, especially with how Mac was handled and now the downward spiral of Hubert Davis in men's basketball? I hope this makes sense. I would just like to hear you guys talk more about Bubba and the state of Carolina athletics as a whole. If there's any more info to provide, awesome pod. Listen every day. Thank you. P.S. I want Nate Oates too. Well, you're going to have to share him with the other half of college basketball.
Yeah. He gets half and Patino gets half.
I think I'll just say this real quick about Bubba. It's not the Carolina family stuff. You're there. You take that job. You know that's what you deal with. That's fine. It's what happened in May. It's what happened. It's what got Kevin Gustkowitz out of there.
Sure.
The board, and it's not just the UNC board, but it's the entirety of the university system, is a highly political body. And I can
have a board of trustees and a board of governors.
And I can see where somebody like Bubba, whose job it is to understand the books, that's what he's good at, is now getting questioned because some guy's trying to make a larger point, some big show. I'd want the hell out of there too, if that's the attitude they're going to take.
I had a chance to talk to Bubba before the state game in Raleigh.
Yeah.
The temperatures have cooled, is how it's been explained to me.
That's good.
From the Mac firing to the Belichick search to, there was a lot of outside interference on all of those fronts.
Yeah.
Bubba has turned down a lot of jobs. Florida and USC, off the top of my head, are two that I think I even told him to take the Florida job. I'm not moving to LA and making AD money. That ain't gonna get you anywhere in LA.
Yeah.
Right. But I would have taken the Florida job when it was offered to him, and he didn't want it. He wanted to be here. This is where he wants to be. And I admire the way that he goes about running their athletic department. But just as we've seen, I'll use Mike Tomlin as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, while his message is not to individual players and individual teams, it's, as a department, sometimes a message can stagnate. And sometimes it's best for you, even as a successful person, to go somewhere else where your life is a little bit easier. Maybe Don Waddell is a better example. I know Don Waddell wasn't the Hurricanes general manager for that long. It was only 6 years. But, I think it's fair to say that Don had enough of the Tom Dundon experience and having to do 3 or 4 different jobs and being paid to do one.
Ready to do something else,
3 or 4.
And
the opportunity came to him to be just the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, which he took. So that's not a nefarious thing. I do think I do think what had happened with the end of Mac, I do think what had happened during that surge had looked like the political pressure would push Bubba out. How that goes over the summer, again, all I can tell you is what I've been told in my conversations with him and some people over there is the temperatures have cooled and the cooler heads have prevailed, and they're now in this kind of eager phase of how does the Belichick move pay off? Okay, now we made it. How does it pay off?
Yeah.
And then that leads you to solving the basketball problem in a way that they're going to try to solve for Hubert, not by replacing Hubert. So you should probably square that as a Carolina fan.
That's going to wrap it up for the free portion of the OG mailbag. If you want the rest, by all means, go to ogtrianglemedia.com and be part of OG fans. We got questions related to the Canes, a little trade rumor talk, plus a question about who I've motherfucked besides Dimitri in a hot mic moment. All that.
Oh, that was good.
All that.
That was good.
On the paid side. So go to OG fans, go to ogtrianglemedia.com, go be part of OG fans.